There we go. All done. So I just chopped a little green onion, some cilantro, ground a little more black pepper, and drizzled with some fresh olive oil. So that's it. I just blended until it was pretty creamy smooth. And the 1 tablespoon of turmeric plus about a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon to 3/4 teaspoon of black pepper, a half a cup of the coconut milk, and a half a teaspoon of cumin. Tastes really yummy together. The sweet potato is naturally more sweet than a normal potato, so expect that it's not as savory as normal mashed potatoes, but the turmeric's a really nice complement here. And remember that we absorb turmeric with a little fat in the meal, as well as the piperin and the black pepper. So make sure you add those to this in order to get some of the benefits of the turmeric. I'm going to add to a bowl and garnish with a little cilantro and chive. So after you drain the sweet potato, put it back in your large stock pot and just use this to prepare the rest of the recipe. That way you don't use quite as many bowls. So I have my potato. I'm going to start with a half a cup of my light coconut milk, excuse me. I'm going to put in my roasted garlic. I have my extra potato water there. If I need it, I'm going to use a tablespoon of turmeric. Start with that. I'm going to grate a little salt and pepper in here, and then I'm using a hand immersion blender to puree this all, but you can totally do it by hand if you have a masher. As long as the potatoes are soft enough, you should be good to go. The garlic in that case, I would recommend either pulverizing first or really finely chopping so that you don't have to mash quite as much. So these are nice and soft now. I took a few ladlefuls of the water out and put them in a small bowl to reserve to use while I'm mashing the potatoes if I need it. And I'm going to drain the rest in a big colander over the sink. So there we go. All the potatoes are chopped. So if you're making this at home, you don't have to skin the potato, but because I already did this morning to make the crispy potato skins, they're already skinned. This was about 5 sweet potatoes, or roughly 4 pounds. That's what I've got in front of me. So I'm going to transfer over to my stove top and place them in a big stock pot of water and bring it to a boil, and then turn it down to simmer for 20 minutes or so until the potato is nice and soft and tender so that it would be easy to mash. And I think I'm going to use my little immersion blender to mash these potatoes, but if you have a potato masher, you could use that. You can also use a high-speed blender as long as you add enough liquid. So I'm just going to begin to add these to my water, and I'll add them all and then bring it to a boil. So it's dinner time now, and we enjoyed our crispy potato skins I made earlier. So here's the potatoes left over from this morning's recipe of the crispy potato skins, and I'm gonna make a turmeric garlic mashed sweet potato for dinner. So a good substitute for regular white potatoes. They've got lots of beta carotene as opposed to the white potato. And then turmeric is such a healing, warming spice, antioxidant capacity. It's been used and studied a lot for anti-inflammatory action in the body, so use it and cook with it when you can. So I'm going to add turmeric. I think I'm going to use a little light coconut milk to add some creaminess without using butter, but I have a little olive oil if I need some additional fat. I roasted a few cloves of garlic so that if I add garlic, it's not as biting and pungent. I like the flavor of roasted garlic, so I'm going to add this to the puree a little later on. I have some cumin here too that I might sprinkle in. I think that's a nice complement to the turmeric. Salt, pepper, of course. I'm going to garnish with a little cilantro and maybe some green onion. So this will really be a pretty vibrant, bright dish. I've been soaking these in water just so that the flesh doesn't oxidize. So when a potato or other fruit or vegetable is skinned and left open to the air, it tends to oxidize. If you put it in cold water, that helps prevent some of that. So I'm going to dump the water, chop these, and add them to a large pot and boil until they're tender, and then we'll start to mash.